Good morning, aloha. Hi, this is Kim Pinkney, and welcome to my channel. Alrighty, so I've been peer pressured to go back to doing traditional drawing. Maybe that's why a lot of you have signed up. Maybe it was the digital. I can't say, but this morning I just want to see how rusty I am. So let me pick a page and see what's in this book so far. I've found a couple of my drawing books right next to me, and I haven't looked through them in forever. And you guys, if you've been with me, you're familiar with a lot of these drawings that are in here. Let's see. And then some of them may have been doodles for t-shirts. They ended up on t-shirts, ideas that had been started, or doodles while I was on the bus. Things like that. Let me see if I can raise my camera a bit so that we can all see what the hell I'm flipping through. Okay, let's see. Let me move my keyboard a bit since we don't need it right now. Okay, so I don't know what that is. Pictures I've started. It's like if you draw and you have a drawing book, not everything was meant for public consumption. Not everything was meant to be finished. And not that it's an excuse or anything, but sometimes the muse leaves you on day 2 or minute 3. It doesn't matter. Sometimes the muse sticks with you until the end, and then if she abandons you or he abandons me, I move on to something else, to maybe a fresher muse, one that's not so burnt out and frustrated. Pointing and telling me what I need to be drawing. It's like, you need to draw this. Oh, you should be drawing that. Oh my God, girl, keep going, keep going. So that's kind of what it sounds like in my head, in exactly that voice too. So I'm just flipping through to see if I can find something I can either manipulate or just to show off, or just to see what I had been doing and what I had left behind. This is kind of cute. I was thinking about taking this. There's a few of these I've been thinking about taking into my iPad. How can we forget this little epic picture? Yeah. Yeah, it's just interesting to see what went somewhere and what doesn't. And a lot of these were ideas that I had jotted down, trying to come up with just something that, I don't know, maybe like a children's story or something like that I've been writing, or you know, just making characters. And sometimes the muse stays with me, sometimes the muse abandons me, sometimes the picture just isn't quite right in my head and it doesn't translate right to the paper. So let's see, like this character right here I might use for this one story that I'm writing about, kind of like a side adventure from my valedictorians, where you have minions turned into, well, minions, what are they called? Familiars that are turned humanoid, and then they have to learn how to value human life or something like that, their master's life. It's like they're going to obedience school. Basically, that's the title, would be obedience school. So anyway, yeah, to make you a better familiar. So some of these pictures will be familiar to you guys because they've been like Saturday morning. They're just like cartoons that I had drawn while I was doing live streams. And eventually I want to go back through, bring them into my iPad and clean up the lines because, you know, I get kind of shaky sometimes when I try to focus on what I'm doing. Okay, I really like this one, and I want to do something with this one eventually. This one I had started and, well, pretty much just done on the bus. It's kind of funny, and it's just like doing the braids and stuff like that. It's just like my mind kind of, just kind of does its own thing. Okay, so anyway, or the pencil does its own thing. I don't know. But a lot of these pictures were just doodles. They just don't go anywhere. They didn't have any kind of guidance behind them or anything like that. Just an idea of like, okay, well, I did these urban divas with the big head, little bodies, and just wanted to do another one type of thing. So I have a lot of things like that, things that I had done in the past that I wanted to put a fresh spin on or add to. Let's see, we might be coming to a blank page. Oh, not quite yet, but I'll come back to that one. Now these are different characters that I have this thing about doing the Chinese zodiac. I love the idea of the animals, but also taking a human and kind of putting it into their persona. So this again goes along with the obedience school type of thing. So you have like animals that represent the Chinese zodiac that have a little bit more power than other familiars do. Not necessarily like gods, but they're just a little bit stronger than the regular familiar. Because they have that lore behind them, and they have things like that goes along with it. So that was just an idea, but I'm still trying to finalize what I want that character to look like. Here's those dangerous Disney damsels. Not sure what I was doing with that one. Dangerous Disney damsels, or dangerously cute. Yeah, some things come back to haunt us. This definitely should be redone in the, what is it called? On my iPad. Another doodle. This one was like of a guy who kind of had a dragon's tail, dragon's horns. But had he been done on my iPad, I could shrink it down and complete the body. But no, I did not do it on my iPad. Yeah, this is the constraints of working with paper. If you make a mistake, make something too big, you'd have to erase the entire thing or add paper to extend it. And again, ideas that didn't go anywhere, or I ended up changing it because I could reduce sizes, increase sizes, add things and stuff like that. This was like a ball jointed doll that I was thinking about creating. And I think we are at the end. Yep. Okay, let's start on Trey Songz, and let's see how far we can go in less than an hour, it looks like. Almost an hour. Okay, so let's see. I'll make sure I'm in the camera because I have a tendency of moving my paper for my own purposes. Okay, and let's begin. I'm going to do him in the idea of the Afro steampunk. I'm going to try to stay within my boundaries here. And in this one, I'm going to have him with his man chest hanging out here. I'm going to make him kind of sexiful. So without getting too hardcore into drawing the final pencils, I'm keeping everything very light. This is a number, a 0.7? I thought this was 0.5. Boo on 7. I like 5s. It gives me a nicer, thinner lead. I can get really good in there. Okay. I think I stole this from my son. Okay. So let's see if I can chemify this guy. My picture's like super tiny, so let me zoom in. And I probably could have found a better picture. This one's a little pixelated, but we'll do our best here. I found that if I draw from photographs, something that's real, my pictures don't come out as cartoony, unless I expect them to stay cartoony. So if I want like more of a realistic look, I use source images. It helps me to keep my proportions straight. I could probably go a little bit bigger. Yeah, let's go big or go home. Well, we're already at home. Ah, yes. The hazards of pencil. Can't erase completely, can't create a new layer. It's all right here. So, never used to complain about it before. So let's see. We'll make his head about this big, because it's only like his chest here anyway. Let's see, and then I'll probably reduce it even further. So I won't go too much detail going down. So let's see if we can get his face here. I should have plenty of room for his hair. I'm going to go ahead and divide it. This is my eye line. And I'm pretty much trying to emulate the shapes that I see. And then with my kneaded eraser, I'm going to erase as I go and kind of carve him out of this paper here. His nose will be about right here. His mouth will be open and right here. Yeah, being on the iPad made me extremely lazy because I could always fix whatever it is that I had. And I have to be a lot more particular about what I'm doing here than I do on the iPad. But I love it. I love the iPad. Oh my God. But I love my pencil and paper when I don't have if my iPad's not charged up. And I can't, and I can't carry it along with me or something like that. So if I was on a deserted island, I would definitely want to be making paper, or I'd be drawing on something. Okay, his nostrils are wide, his nose is wide. Let's see, and right here is where the other one, if my proportions are right, the end of his nose here. And I use the eyes as a guide for me, because the face, or rather the nose that I'm working on is one eye wide, but sometimes people's proportions aren't precise. So I look at where the nose falls on the face. So on this particular image that I'm using, if I drop a line straight down, that's where one edge of his nostril is. And because he's 3/4, I'll look to see on the other side, and his other nostril falls about where the corner of his eye is. And everybody's different, especially depending on how they're posed as well. I'll throw a little bit of shadow here so I can keep up. With my lightness here. Okay, and his mouth, I can also use the eyes as a reference. About the corner here, if I drop my line down, and about a little bit beyond this nose, about right here is where his mouth is going to fall. So like in between here. That's where his corners are. Yep, so this being the 26th, this is going to be the last week of Afro Steampunk. And then I'm going to be doing more line drawings. But I really want to focus on either my coloring book or the story that I'm working on. I might have to get another image of Trey Songz because I can only see a bit of what's going on here. And then I'll be doing my let's see, I'll be doing the line drawings on live streams, and maybe even bring in some crayons. But this picture is a little too small for the crayons. I'd have to use like colored pencils. Let's go ahead and finish up his mouth. I'm just following the shape. It's like if you take your time and break it down into basic shapes, or even just tones. If you have like a really crappy source image, the best source images are super clear, where you can see eyelashes. If I can see the eyelashes, that is perfect. Anything else, it's you're taking a fuzzy picture and you're making it bigger. A bigger fuzzy picture. Which is basically what I've got here. It's a very pixelated fuzzy picture. Alright. Let's go ahead and change the music a bit. More electro music. Now I'm putting some drawing lines here to show where the texture of the face is. I'm doing it very lightly. And since I'm on the face, I just got to remember that if I move away from the face, I have to raise my camera. So what I'm doing is I'm bringing my camera down so you guys can see it a little bit better. There we go. Yeah, and I like drawing people who I've never drawn before. It's a challenge, and I don't know, I just like it. Like I can't see his, I can see that I've got shadows for his eyebrows, but I don't see each individual eyelash or eyebrow hair. Let's see. Okay, I'm just going to define his face. Now, the more portraits and whatnot that you do, the more you can take your source image, even if it's crappy, and make something decent out of it. You'll learn, the more that you do, you'll learn how the face the face works. It's a face cam. Some of the fundamentals and things like that will come to you, even if the picture is lousy. You know that the eye is round, so you just work accordingly. If you've done eyelashes before, you know that they kind of curl under. If you've done a lot of Asian or people, you know that the eyelashes, instead of curling up, are pretty much straight, unless they're actually curled. Everybody's an exception. There's exceptions to everything. Okay. All right. Ears. Gotta get those ears. Ears usually fall, depending on, like, around this area. So, like, where the bottom of the nose is, usually the ear will fall there, unless they're old. And then it's just like, it could be anywhere. That's one of the organs that just keep growing is your nose. So proportions may be thrown off. You never know. But basically, this is the neck of the woods from the eyebrows. If his head is tilted upwards, it all just falls pretty much in this neck of the woods right here. And head is 5 eyes wide. So if I needed to, I'll first, before I do that, 1, 2, 3, 4. It almost looks like 6 on him because his hair is thick. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just like a bit 6 right here because his hair kind of sticks out a little bit more. Now he's also wearing an open shirt with a high collar, and I think I'll play with that. I think I'll throw a little bit of that Victorian thing on there. Keep the collar high. It leads into his shoulder. See, his hair kind of begins here, using landmarks to determine where things are. This is kind of like a little fade here, and then his hair gets thicker. And to do kinky, tightly coiled hair, 4C hair for those who understand that mess, I use like this curling action, little circles. The tighter the coil or the darker it is, less light going through. I keep them really tight together, so it gives him his hair texture, but it also gives you that shadow, that extra shadow. So right now I'm just getting the basic shape of his hair. I'm looking at it, and then I kind of go around in a circle type of thing and just kind of make the picture appear that way. I don't like just doing, you know, working on one eye. You spend like an hour in this area, you have like a half done face, you know, on this side, and everything else is undone. It leaves too much open for mistakes. But if I can get everything to kind of come together, I can see my proportions better. So I kind of fill it out as I go. Now I don't usually I only put shadows in to help me with my landmarks, placements and stuff like that. He's got an earring here. I'm going to turn that into a gear. A gear, a timepiece, African mask, anything. And now I'm going to define his ear just a little bit better. And all that means is it's not going to be as fuzzy. I'm pretty happy on the placement of things. My thinnest lines they kind of indicate that there's a little bit of light that's happening in that neck of the woods. And right here. See, I left my blending stumps in my backpack, and I'm too lazy to go back, turn around and get them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of use a little bit of cross hatching. Nothing too intense. He's not going to look like a checkerboard when I get done. But my cross hatching is just to help me fill in some of the tooth of the paper here. Now he's got a lot of shadows in this picture, this fuzzy picture, and it's hard to tell where beard begins and hair ends, or beard begins and shadows begin, but we'll try to figure it out. So I'm making his shadows with lines. The more dense the line or shadows, hey Tatted Hearts, the more I've got shadows there. So it's very shadowy down here, very light elsewhere. Okay, hey Tatted Hearts, just put on purple highlighter, lip tint, and ready for school. I can be your blending stump. Okay, alright, my Huckleberry, you can be my blending stump. It's easier to say than Tortillon. Or tortillon. I don't know how to pronounce that. I always just call it my shader device. Now there's barely any shadows that I can see on his nose, so it's going to be hard to define his nose a bit. I hate to leave it without anything, so I'm trying to find as many subtleties as possible. Let's see, I can go a little darker. Now I'm just looking beneath his nose to see if I can find anything that'll help me make it look like a nose, and that's about as good as it's gonna get because my picture sucks. You know, I think I chose this picture because I saw his chest, so let's go ahead and get there. Okay, let me zoom out a bit so you can see the rest of the picture. Let me see what his hair looks like. I might be able to go... Oh, yeah, okay. Let's finish this top hair. I'm going to have a little bit of fun with his hair here. His hairline. Yeah, all this is dark. That's going to take some time to fill in. Yeah, basically this pencil is about an HB or number 2. And it'll never be black. This will always be gray. That's why people use the pencils that have a lot of different grades to it, like F and hard H pencils. Those are the light ones, and then the B's are for the blacks. They're a lot softer, and they get a little bit darker. They can get to black. 9B is like my favorite, and 6H is my second favorite. Let me see if I've got any of those next to me. Let's see. I've got pencils and whatnot galore around, but do I have them the right ones near me? I do not. This one's just here for weight. Let's see. How about... I don't see... let's see. This is a good one. This is a black, jet black ebony pencil. I can use that. Let's see. Pens, pens, pens. Aha! What's this? This is an H. Aha! Is this a 6H? Can't read it. We'll find out. I think it's a 6H. It just looks like it's kind of screwed up. And one tiny little blending stump. All you need. I got all I need to get by. Alright. Okay, so what I do is usually take the lightest pencil, the H pencil, and go ahead and give him a skin tone. White will be our ultimate highlight. And this is if you want it to really stand out. So I'm just going to do the whole thing with the H pencil here. Except for parts of the nose. It's very, very light. Okay, then I'll go in with my black and very, very lightly. Usually I have an H pencil or one of these bad boys to help give me like that in mid-tone. So right here I'm going to try to define some of the mid-tones here using the side of the pencil, not the tip of the pencil. Just kind of very lightly and very far back on my pencil, so I don't have, I can use it, I can get a really light touch with it. And I just kind of let the pencil glide where I see the shadows. There's a little bit of a highlight here. So where it's really super bright, I'm going to go ahead and use my kneaded eraser, get it to a nice little tip. G-Dragon from Fantastic Baby video where he had half orange, half brown hair. Well, you know the drill. Go ahead and send me some images of that particular thing. I don't want to spend my time looking for something that I don't know what I'm looking for. Yeah, if you guys have some ideas and stuff, you can always send a, what do you call it? If you have Google Drive, you can always share like images. You just open up here, let me show you. Go to, and you can even see what I'm working with. I'm going to switch to my desktop. And in Google Drive, there's a feature where you can share your images. So I would get my images, I'd put them here, That way if I was on the road, and this is what I'm working with, woo woo woo. So I'm gonna at least capture up to woo, not woo woo woo, but up to woo. And then if you send me that, then I have a better idea of what we're working with. So like if I have patterns that I want to incorporate, pictures of folks that I want to incorporate, like I was working on Erica Badu, giving her this pose. I gotta zoom out. There we go. Erica. And then inspired by Erte. Let's see. So I was going to do something similar with her outfit here, but certain people wanted to see me draw like typical stuff. So, you know, not typical stuff, but you know, pencil drawings. So right now we're working with pencil, and eventually we'll go back to crayon and whatnot like that. Okay, anyway, but you can send me an email or a request to share slides by file, share, there's something about share, and then you can just toss in my email and you can send me whatever ideas that you have. And if I have that, then I'll let it germinate and I'll figure out how I can incorporate it into what I am working with. So, back to our Trey Songz. Make him a bit bigger, much bigger. And see, here are the darker tones here, and that's where I should be using my Tortillon on his face here. And that just kind of blends colors together. Okay, so let me get back to, there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. When you use your blending stump, it will take away the pencil lines, the details, and just kind of leave you with a smudge, the dark tones. So if you have those details and you need them, you definitely want to add them back in. There's also other little tricks that you can do. If you just want to work with like charcoal, you can use your blending stump and charcoal in order to get those effects. There's other little things that you can do as well. I don't have my sandpaper block, and that's what I would use to clean this and keep it to a nice point. Okay. But like it does obscure, so you don't want to use it all over. You want to just use it very sparingly. Like right here, it made everything darker. So I need this to be considerably lighter, or I need to make everything else darker. So let's see if we can do that. We'll just make everything else darker. And see if we can get that in between. Now if you do end up making things too dark, that's what this comes in. This can make things lighter by just touching it. You can either erase completely, like what I did here for the highlights. I think I can do that here. And just in a couple other places. And then just kind of blend to the light and try to get that gradient. Now I'm going to see if I can make these lines here disappear by shading inward. Either shade inward or outward, depending on which side is darker. When I say shade inward, because I know this is going to be brighter than my background, so I'm going to shade going inwards, just kind of taking the line and bringing it on the inside here. And then same thing I would do with the nose. I'd figure out which side is lighter. This side is all light, so I'll be shading downwards. I can't see the tip of his nose. I see the bridge and where his eye socket is. That's darker. He's got the highlights here. He's got some little frown lines here. But see, this was supposed to be a light tone, so all these light tones that I see of this need to be applied elsewhere if I'm going to be consistent. So let's see if we can do that. Just very lightly touching and tapping. And the darker it is, it could be a little bit richer in tone. And it gives that contrast. These also fill in things a lot faster, or at least fills in the tooth of the paper a lot faster. Because this is darker than this, I have to make all of this considerably darker. So I'm going to press down a little bit. Okay, it's 607. Take my I'll lay down as much as I can here. That's kind of why I like to use charcoal in here as well. Charcoal smears extremely well, but it also calls for having, what is it called, some fixative to keep it from going onto the other paper and stuff like that. That, or you may want to put like a little sheet of paper in between so that it doesn't transfer to the other side. Okay, so just really quickly, no rhyme or reason to it, just kind of fill it in. To keep the texture, I keep the pencil going in the round circular fashion. But now I'm going to look at my source image to see what parts here are darker than others. And I'm going to hit those a little bit longer. Okay, so I'm also going to use the blending stump. Once you get some of this on here, you gotta be careful when you go to another part of the picture. And I'm only using the stump where it's darkest in his hair. Where there's highlights, I'm going to stay away from those areas or hit them very lightly. Okay, and then I'm going to go over it again. Because one swipe goes through and it adds into the, just gets into the tooth of the paper, and the other one will be on top. And it adds that extra little bit of darkness, extra texture. Alright, so we see a bit of his neck about right here. This is all in shadow, except for the very edge. See how the blending stuff makes it all one tone? That's why I come back in and give it more of a gradient in the dark here. Here I don't want to lose his little beard, so I'm making that a little darker too. Now it's hard to see his teeth, so I'm going to use this shadow here. Just make that a little darker than the other areas around. Now I don't want this to be too white, so I'm just going to bring back a little bit of shadow and just kind of define his upper lip here, the bottom of his upper lip. This tone here is darker than this tone here, so I'm going to leave that alone. This is all dark here. And I'm just trying to match darknesses and tones. Like this tone is here. He's got a little bit of a shadow here where his eye kind of curves. His his eyeball kind of curves. His eyebrow, I'm going to define that a little bit. And use some of the tones from that to make the shadows here. Let's see if I can get this to be a little lighter. So I'm going to tap this. I don't want to use my finger because fingers have oils and boogers and whatnot. You never want to use your finger to spread anything on your paper because it'll yellow over time or leave fingerprints. Alright, let's move down. But before I do, I'm going to go ahead and define a little bit more of his eye. His eyebrow. See if I can throw anything into his hair here. Kind of define the edges a bit. Just kind of keep it random. Just looking for any subtleties in tones here. Like, I can't see his eyelashes, so I can't put that detail in there. I can only just try to capture the shadows and determine, is this shadow darker than this shadow or just as dark, and just try to emulate that. These shadows here are lighter than this shadow. It's a little darker here in the white of his eye. There we go. Alrighty, it's almost time for me to go. You guys, if you like what you see, like and subscribe. Let me know if there's anything else that you'd like to see. If you'd like to see something in color, I will pick this up tomorrow where I left off, and I'll probably be working on Erykah Badu on my iPad. So if you prefer iPad, let me know. If you prefer traditional drawings, if you want to see actual coloring of something like the Art with Edge books or something like that, I'll see if I can dig them back out. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and give him that collar, and then probably even throw in some steampunky stuff tomorrow. Those elegant gentlemen don't have their stuff hanging out. But if you have an emergency and you gotta tend to your creations, you do what you gotta do. Let me bring this down a bit. Just make sure I'm still in proportion. Here's his head. So about a head length down is where his nipples would be. So they'll probably be about right here, I want to say. Oh, and that's time. All right. You guys, thank you so much for joining me. I'll go turn off my alarm. Yes, 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 I hear you, I hear you. All right, so it's time for me to go. You guys have a great one, and I will see you on the morrow, and we'll throw more steampunky stuff on here. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.